Hi everyone, welcome to the bootcamp. Bhuva here. I'm the Chief Ethics and Culture Officer at Capgemini AI, based in New York. Let's dive right in. So, what is ESG and why is it important? ESG is simply a framework that standardizes the processes, technologies, metrics, and reporting across all countries, companies, and industries so that we can evaluate, measure, and improve sustainable goals within that scope. You don't have to be a climate scientist or a nonprofit or be regulated by laws to follow ESG starting today. E stands for environmental, that's considering all the environmental factors that impact our planet. Some examples include limiting carbon emissions and greenhouse gases, increasing biodiversity and decreasing deforestation, eliminating all types of waste and pollution, and so on. S for social heavily emphasizes people over profits and without compromising revenues over communities. Some examples include ethical use of technology and responsible data privacy controls, accessible human rights all over the world, and inclusive opportunities regardless of your gender, race, and so on. Lastly, G for governance has guidelines to transparently track and positively iterate for equitable business. Some examples include diversity of C-suite and executive board members at corporations, startups, and governments, putting a stop to corruption and illegal lobbying, and sharing 360-degree risk assessment. So why does ESG matter now and how technology plays a huge part? Last month, in August, our entire humanity on this one planet used up all the biological resources that the Earth typically regenerates in a year. That means what we demand from nature exceeded Earth's biocapacity. So now we are going to be in a deficit for the rest of 2023 by over-consuming ecological footprint. World Economic Forum has shared research on how digital technology can transform environmental protection across the world. For example, using AI to protect endangered species or using blockchain to prevent illegal fishing and so on. Digital technologies can cut global emissions by 20% in the next decade. Use of Internet of Things or robotics and drones can reduce waste and improve atmospheric quality. Likewise, in a business, efficient use of digital devices, tools, and systems to create, store, and process data solves the biggest hurdle in accurate ESG reporting. For example, how fair trade is your entire supply chain. And we all know that quality data in recent days in many companies has brought out the systemic bias that has existed for generations. With robust analytics, we can track social impact, for example, job displacement. Let's look at some challenges in the environmental sectors and find solutions that can be measured at scale. In today's world, energy security is something that every country is aiming for without dependency on other nations, while also some countries, if not all, are also aiming for a cleaner planet along with energy independence. There are three ways how we can achieve this at a high level. Firstly, we need to increase renewable energy sources. Secondly, find ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And lastly, bring in universal controls for responsible clean energy globally. Let's see what's the difference between all these and how they all integrate together to solve the energy crisis. Renewable energy is abundant and comes from natural resources like the sunlight, wind, and water, also known as solar energy, wind energy, and hydro energy. Again, there could be numerous sources, but these are the most available at the moment. The goal of renewable energy is to be sustainable and constantly replenish without drilling the planet. In terms of greenhouse gas emissions, all of us talk widely about carbon dioxide, but I also want us to think about methane and nitrous oxide, though there are a few others. We need to find a balance between how long the gas will stay in our atmosphere and cause damage versus how short-lived it can be, but still have more impact for a lifetime. On the clean energy sector, the main challenge is nuclear energy. It is clean, but controversial and deadly. It produces zero carbon emissions and does not produce any other significant quantities of greenhouse gases, but is it safe? There are geographical and local community related considerations that we need to account for before deploying nuclear energy at scale, even though it can improve planet quality. Here are some of the key metrics, and these are high-level guidelines, but feel free to add more as you see fit. Renewable energy ratio, it's measured in a percentage. How much percentage of energy is renewable in a factory or a business compared to total energy that is consumed in a quarter or a year. You can further determine energy use efficiency. Is it good or bad or improving based on comparing energy use by geography, location, and other attributes. Further, with trend analysis, time charts, and calendar periods, you can compare seasonal peaks and any anomalies. Again, is it regional or widespread, right? So greenhouse gas emissions, they can be measured in metric tons by gas type or by economic sector or by country. For example, first identify the sources of emission by human activity that is due to deforestation, soil degradation, chemical fertilizers usage, non-biodegradable plastic waste, and so on. And further, for the same attributes and scope, measure the reduction of gases, let's say by increased reforestation, increasing reusable and bio-friendly products, and by using organic fertilizers. In terms of economic sector metrics, we can classify under transportation or infrastructure or factories. For nuclear energy, we need a different mindset. Along with the potential for higher quantities of electricity generation, we need to measure the responsible controls in place and how compliant the nuclear plant is. As an example, what are the operational safety indicators, right? So that's very important to measure. Let's look at some challenges in the social sectors and find solutions that are accessible and inclusive. In the social sector, many of the challenges are well known to the masses. However, solutions are not implemented at a scale where we can have systemic change across diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, within wealth inequality and pay gaps, we should measure multiple economic factors like inflation, where people are not getting paid to a level where they can afford day-to-day basic essentials. We should also measure gender pay gaps, especially prevalent when we measure the wage ratio between different genders. Within workforce diversity and human rights, it's important to measure cultural diversity with greater recognition of non-traditional genders and related identifiers. This is to fully tap into the collective potential of diverse workforce. At the business level, better DE&I leads to better insights into customer groups and creativity. Human rights violations measurements are also very directly within a business or indirectly across all layers of their supply chains. And it's critical to ensure better workplaces without chaos and also having a consistency in people policies. Regarding upskilling and reskilling and relevant trainings, within the exponential automation and globalization and emergence of deep tech transformation, many jobs are being displaced without an equivalent or better replacement for employees due to lack of relevant skills. This is critical for economic stability of any country, and the amount of money and hours invested in training by the companies is an important metric, along with how existing employees are able to acquire new skills to transfer internally without job displacements. Let's look at some challenges in the governance sectors and find solutions that are transparent and ethical. Corporate governance data, unlike environmental or social data, has been compiled for a longer period of time and is being reported where required by the law in most countries. There is increasing evidence of the link between ESG and financial outperformance with better data quality, standardized data, and longer data history. Especially, there is already substantial empirical evidence to suggest that the G aspect of ESG ultimately yields better corporate returns. Let's start with the diversity of the board, experience of the executive directors and C-suite. How long is their tenure in a specific subject area, and what's their risk tolerance level in terms of proactive measurement and mitigating? Board compensation is also critical in comparison to their effectiveness and code of ethical business conduct. Companies should also be measured against their regulatory compliance, track record, and long-term vision. Regarding supply chain, self-measurement of direct vendors, partners, suppliers is not sufficient. So it's critical to go into multiple levels and across geographies to evaluate the end-to-end production, services, and business processes, and diligently balancing qualitative and quantitative data. They should be collectively assessed and remediated. Transparently and voluntarily reporting ESG metrics from all ecosystem stakeholders will increase public trust. Eliminating bias in data collected and also systems implemented to generate reports is important to ensure core values and ethical frameworks are integrated top-down and bottom-up, right? So it's important across the organization culture and globally. And this applies to every level of the organization. So from the executive to entry-level employees. Ethics and anti-corruption guidelines should be implemented to track across customers, business partners, internal stakeholders, as well as how well the finances are being managed and reported across all operations. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to reach me on LinkedIn if you want to learn more on any of these ESG topics.